Hey, what's up guys? This is John Spear Warhammer. Hope you guys are having a good day. Today we're going to be taking a look at an LG washing machine and replacing the pump motor. This particular one is not draining anymore, so we'll just jump right into it and go from there. This is the washer. So first thing I want you guys to take a look at is the model number. So if you have something similar to that, this thing is good for you. It's this little guy right here, the model number, the WM3670HVA. I'm going to be sending the link below for the extra part. The code that we were getting thrown was OE. First thing you're going to want to do is make sure that your washer is unplugged. So this one is good to go on that. Next step will be to undrain it. So what you're gonna wanna do is this. Get yourself like a nice sized bucket. Pull this thing out. Twist this thing off. You can also clean your little guy from in here. So I emptied this sucker out already. What you'll do that's where you'll do to clean it. Sometimes it gets hair and stuff like that in it, so just good to know. All right, let's move on to your next step. Is going to be wanting to take this top part off. So there are two screws. They are located right here and same side over there on the bottom. So we'll try to do that real quick. And a cool little trick is to keep all these guys together in the same order that you took them off. So if you have like a little piece of cardboard, that you can do that. But I'll kind of give you a brief description of that once we get there. All right, so now what you're gonna wanna do is push down and forward. Grab it off like that, put it somewhere safe, and you're good to go. This is kind of what I was talking about, where you put the screws. So the next set of screws that you take off, you'll put it right here. And then next one, next one, next one, next one, until you get to the end. So you can keep track of it. So you can do all these steps in reverse. But you just start from the bottom, work your way up to the top. So fun little tip, there you go. All right, now that we got it all open, next step that we're gonna be doing is taking off a couple of different things. So this would be one of them. So you're gonna pull it off, how it says push down right there, push it down right there. Put this in a safe spot. We got this screw, and this screw right here. So that'll be the next step that we'll kind of go over. So try to do this one-handed. Put these in the safe spot. So we'll do that real quick and I'll get right back to you. All right, so now we're going to be taking off this plastic piece right here. So to do that, there are these little clippies that are like right here, right over here, and we're going to be pulling those up. Kind of hard to do with one hand, so I will get back to you. All right, so now what you're gonna want to do is grab this little guy, just kind of put it on top, you know. It's gonna have some wires and stuff attached to it. Then what you're gonna want to do is come down to this box. There are 2 screws. Let's see. Two screws, one right here and one right there. All right, so we're gonna take those off and I'll show you what to do from there. All right, so now what you're gonna wanna do now that the screws are off, and take this thing off, put it somewhere safe. So what I've been doing is just kind of making a little pile of random stuff. And then my screws, stick that in the next little section. All right, so next up, we're gonna be opening up this bad boy. And go right here. Around this little corner, there's a ring. At the bottom, you can see a spring. What you're gonna wanna do is get your flathead and kind of pry it in. Take it off, get this little ring, throw it in the barrel, and then from there, you're just gonna kind of want to shove this sucker in. All right, now next step is right where this little guy is. Right behind it, there's gonna be, get in there, there's this little switch. So right here is this cable. This little cable needs to come off. Cut. So that is how it looks when it's taken out. It's this little guy right here. All right. Make sure all this is stuck in there. And then the next thing that we're gonna be doing is taking these screws off. Boom, 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 boom. Alright, so now that we got all the screws off, the door's gonna come loose, so make sure you be careful with that. You're gonna close the door and then pull it out just a little bit and kind of jimmy it out. I think I forgot a screw like this. Then you put it somewhere safe. you go. Alright, now we're going to move on to the next step. Alright, so your next step that we're going to be looking at is removing the clamp right here and right here. Alright, so what you're going to do, the easiest way is to grab your channel locks and I'm going to try to attempt to do this one-handed. Get that one up there. And then the one in the back. Might be a little bit of water in there, but don't worry, not a big deal. So we were able to get that one off. Just kind of put it to the side. Get this guy, put it to the side. You know, if you can, try to face it up so it doesn't spill everywhere. Okay. All right, on to the next step. All right, so your next step is going to be getting these little screws off right here. So there is 1, 2, and I believe there is a third one over here somewhere. Where it is, 3. So that is a little thing to the plate. So we'll take those little guys off and then go from there. So the size that you're going to need for this is a 10mm. Okay, so just for you guys' reference, 10 mil. Alright, so now that we got the 3 screws off, what you're going to want to do is pull it out. Now be careful, there's still a cable connected to it. So keep in mind, when you're looking at it straight up like this, that the black goes on top, and the brown and or red goes on the bottom. Okay, so just the way it was sitting right here, black is on top, brown or red is on bottom. All right, so that's just something to definitely remember. All right, so now that we got it off, there are 3 screws on this plastic piece. 1, 2, and 3. So the best way to handle this situation is to get your screwdriver, just like a normal one, and then go from there. So we'll get this little guy first. Oh, sorry, trying to do this one. Alright, so next what you're going to want to do is get those 3 screws off. The best way to do it is just get a regular Phillips screwdriver, start taking it off. Because if you start trying to use your drill in this situation, never want to use a drill on plastic pieces. Just fun fact. So make sure to put your screws somewhere safe. You don't want to lose them. But just a normal screwdriver is nice because it's nice and thin and pretty much can fit anywhere. And then on the bottom, there are 2 little screws that you need to take off. That guy right there. Then your motor will fall. So we go. Now we got it off. The next step is going to be getting this little plastic piece off. Okay, so we'll go into that, but it's just kind of like a weird little, takes a second to get off type of thing. Just kind of have to do the good old wiggler on her. Right, comes off like that. Here's how you know you're on the right track. So, as you can see, this is the old one, and it spins all crazy. And if you look at this one, there's a lot of tension on it. So I know for sure that this is now the problem, because this little sucker is spinning like there's no tomorrow. There's no tension on it. Motor is broken. So we did get the correct replacement part for the OE trouble call. All right, so now that we got that, got our new motor, we're gonna stick it in this little guy now. And it's kind of we're gonna stick it back into the plastic part. So it's kind of a pain in the butt. I have to wrestle it in. Alright, so now what you're going to want to do is set it up the exact same way that you had it. It's easier to put it on the floor like this, and then put your 3 screws in. Oops, getting the wrong ones in. Got 1, 2, and 3. And then, since it's plastic, make sure you use a standard Phillips bit. Now that you got it connected, make sure you do a visual connection or a visual look at the seal. Make sure it's all sealed up properly. This looks good. It's ready to be mounted back on that guy. There are 3 screws, one right here, one right here, and one right there. So 1, 2, 3, just so you know. Now before you put it back, make sure that you put your cables back on the way you put it in. And if you remember, that is going to be black on top, brown or red on bottom. Okay, so we'll try to do this real quick. Always weird doing this one-handed, but it's all right. Okay. All right, so now that you can see it, there's like this little clippy holder right here where it has some electrical tape. Just slide that right in, let it cruise right on over back into its little sealed deal, and then we'll just start putting it back together. So, you know, let's get this little guy hooked up as best we can. Let's get this little guy on there, and then we'll get our little wrench. We'll put those back together. So give me a second. Alright, so this is how it looks when it's all done. We got the clamp back on. We got this clamp back on right here, so it looks like that. Nothing crazy. You're gonna wanna grab this little guy, your little drain hose, stick it back down. Right there. Good to go. All right, drain hose. You always want to double check everything, so make sure your connections are nice and put in there. This thing's nice and tight. We got our 3 screws, 1, 2, and 3. Our little connection is right where it needs to be. That little connection's right where it needs to be. So we're good to be putting back on the front. So with the front, you have to double check that the 3 holes inside the door opener align with these 3. Okay, so I'll get that on, and then you kind of follow it backwards. You put those screws back on that are up here, and then we'll go from there. All right, so those are those 3 little things I was talking about that make sure that they're in the exact same spot. And then you're gonna wanna finagle this little guy in there, and then you can kind of push it up. Should line up pretty good with the screws that you had. And then the little screws over here that we have nicely placed from front to back. So we'll put those in and we'll go from there. All right, now that we got all the screws on. All right, now we're just gonna double check that everything's nice and tight. Just one last time. You don't want it too tight, but just nice and hand tight. Once again, do not use an impact drill for this. Alright, next step, we're gonna open up this door. Alright. We're gonna go back here again. That little guy right there, we're gonna plug it back in. Do this. All right, now I got it in position. Just make sure it snaps in perfect. And then do a little tug test on it just to make sure it's in. That sucker's good. All right. Alrighty, now our next step is to grab this sucker again. And before we put that in though, we gotta put the little screw that was holding everything together. So grab a screwdriver, try to stick that on. I'm gonna attempt to do this as cool as possible. Boom. If you wanna know what type of tool I'm using on a side note, it's the WM. This is the Phillips head. That's what the PH stands for. Fantastic tool on a side note. All right, so now we'll stick this little guy on here. So this little guy folds down like this. So stick that through the little hole. Put it in there. Okay, just like so. Let's make sure our holes line up. And then we have a thing right here and right here. So I'll try to put it on real quick. That's good. Alright, just hand tight. Don't use power tools in that situation. Fold that back up. Push that back in. Good to go. Next step. Alright, so this might be the most difficult part of the whole setup here. But what you're going to want to do, it's hard to do with one hand, but you know, you're going to want to get this whole layer on that lip right there. See that little lip? You're gonna want to get this on that lip, because if you remember, we're gonna stick this ring back on it, so it needs to go around the lip. So I can't really record this, but this part should be pretty easy, and then we'll go from there. All right, now we're gonna stick the ring on. So if you remember, the ring goes on the bottom right here in this little area right there, you know. So what I have found out, because I can't do this one-handed, is you want to start at the top and then put both your arms, work your way down until you get to the middle. So I have found that that is the easiest part to do this, so we'll go from there. So here's a bonus tip. If you don't have the tool to put the spring ring on, grab 2 zip ties, 2 clamps. Start right here, work your way down, clamp, clamp. Keep being able to pull apart with the zip ties. And then you'll be easily able to cut them off. Work them out. Work it out. Okay. Pull your springs off. Okay. That's how you get the ring back on if you don't have any tools. You're welcome. So once you get the ring on, you're gonna put the last couple of screws on. Sure that they're hand tight. Alright, make sure this thing snaps back in real nice like. Go back here. So you'll just check that everything's nice and tied back down right here, and right there. All good, all in the right spot. So then what you're gonna wanna do is put these little screws in that we took out in the beginning. Go from there. All right, so then you're gonna wanna put this guy back in. Slide it in. So you press down on that little button that we pressed in the very beginning. That slides right back in. Grab your top. Slide it back in. Two screws that we took off in the beginning to get the lid off. Alright. Once again, took the two screws off right there and right there, back here on the bottom only. We'll put those little suckers in. Thank you guys for watching. Once again, my name is John Spear. I'm with Warhammer Electric. Please like and follow for a little bit more of everything. So have a great day, guys.